Hi, besties and bosses. Happy Tuesday. Let's see if I can pull this up in the group. I'm excited to hang with you. They're doing construction again outside my window. This is New York City living, y'all. But it seems to have quieted down, so hopefully that will not be too distracting for us. Let me see if I can find us here in the group so that I can see your comments because my little Facebook book thing does not want to work otherwise. Hopefully I can find. I'm going to keep scrolling for a second. If not, we're going to jump right in. We'd love to hear how you're all doing. Did you celebrate? There was a holiday on, there we go. There was a holiday on Monday, apparently, that I did not realize. I don't know if anybody else, I feel like I say this every time there's a holiday. Does anybody else have that phenomenon as a business owner where unless you have something planned already or clients told you or you have something with like your family or spouse that you just don't realize it's a national holiday? I had no idea because my clients, I have so many clients who are not in the U.S. who are different countries that don't observe the U.S. holidays. I had no idea until someone asked me. They're like, "Oh, I hope you had a great." It was President's Day. And I was like, "Oh, I did have a great President's Day, but I didn't know it was a holiday." Anyway, that's what's going on in my world. I'm doing very well, and I'm excited for our conversation. So today I think it should be a really good one. I mean, I think they're always a good one, but titled "5 One-on-One Clients, 3 Days, No Launching." And so lots. If you got my email, there's lots of nuance here. So yes, these are real results that I just had. This is not the first time I've had results like this. I've had, booked 6 clients in a week before. We've had an 88K sales month, and this is all from one-on-one without launching. And I think those are great results, and I share those for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's just helpful to know as a one-on-one business owner, you can have results like that. I think sometimes we think that's only something that happens for big programs and for launching, and many of my clients don't want a one-on-one only business. Many of my clients want to scale out of one-on-one. This is not to say you need to have a one-on-one business. However, I know many of you do a one-on-one offer in some way. And I think it's helpful just to say that's very possible. I know sometimes my clients, part of the work we're doing on the mindset side is even seeing that they can, it's fine if they don't, but they can book clients that easily and they can do so without launching for a one-on-one model. I think with a group program, a larger program, often you do need to launch. And I do think live launching, particularly right now, is for many people, I'm recommending that. Anyway, not to divert there, but I think sometimes there's almost this narrative that has to take a really long time, and there's nuance. Of course, we have a customer journey. You have to build a relationship with people, and if you've never built relationships with people, sometimes it might take. I talk to my clients about this a lot when they're offering free calls, right? When people book a free call with you, some of them might be ready now, and some of them might not be ready for 3 months, 6 months, right? We're starting that customer journey. So all of that is true, and I think it's also helpful to see that evidence that you can also book 5 one-on-one clients in 3 days. This is probably more like 2.5 days, or it was quite a short time period. So wanted to, and say hi if you're live with me, by the way. I always like to know who's here, and that way we can have it back and forth. So I want to give that evidence there, and I also want to give a lot of nuance and context to that, and then I'm going to break this down a little bit more. So whether you're booking one-on-one or you are launching or have a different offer that you're selling, I want to walk you through the specific mindset shifts I've made recently that supported this particular result, because I do see this result. If I booked 6 clients in a week before, right, 5 clients in 3 days, that's we're cutting that timeline down, and I do see that I made some very specific mindset shifts there. And then I also have very intentionally been looking at my marketing strategy over the past year. So I'm going to share the context, I'm going to share the mindset shifts, but I'm also going to share some of those marketing shifts, and particularly some of the shifts I made that I think supported these results, in these specific results. Not all the results in my business, but these specific results, and some of the ways I'm coaching clients around this to speed up their results. And this is what I'm coaching people through in my new coaching intensive, Your Marketing Multiplied, which I'll share more about this at the end. But if this is something you've heard me talk about, because I just announced this on our last masterclass, so it's pretty new, and it's something you've been curious about, if you're on my email list, and if not, like, you can just pretend you are, I'm offering a special offer, and it ends tomorrow, of $150 off the coaching intensive. This is a week-long intensive to look at your messaging and marketing and to really help position you as the go-to thought leader, the go-to person in your industry, so that people really understand why they want to work with you specifically, right? As opposed to attracting people who are just looking for anyone who offers what you do. I think that is one of the most challenging places to be in business. When I look at 5 clients hiring me in 3 days for one-on-one, right, which is a higher ticket offer, and that's a more intimate relationship, one of the common denominators I see is really how we've looked at my messaging and my marketing to help people understand why me as the option as opposed to why any business coach. And so this is what we're really looking at in that intensive, and then also looking at some of that marketing strategy. It's a week-long intensive. I've already done a couple of those this month. They've been incredible. incredible. They've been so, I just had someone who finished one before we've even finished. She's already got 2 people interested in a brand new 10K VIP offer that we created for her. She used a slightly different focus for the offer, but I'm just seeing really incredible results from them. So if you're interested in that, I will drop a link for that. Tomorrow is when that incentive ends, but so you can book directly, but if you want to connect with me, have a consultation, if you have a question about it, I'll drop a link for that as well. Just leave a note when you book the consultation that, hey, I'm booking in time, for that incentive, and I'll honor that for you. That's no problem at all. Okay, so let's go back to the conversation here, but that feels important because that is part of how I book this many clients in 3 days. So some nuance here, and I put this in the email if you're on my email list. If you're not, get on it. We share great content. We share a weekly roundup with all the things. We're revamping that a little bit right now. But one of the things I share, and I think this is really important whenever anyone is sharing results like this. Yes, I want you to see what's possible. Yes, this is real. Yes, all of this is real. Yes, I've also had an 88K sales month. Like, all of these things are true, and there's so much nuance that I think is important. I'm going to walk you through the specific mindset and strategy that led to these results. But even when I walk you through that, I think there's a couple things to understand. One, I have been showing up for my business, for my audience, and building relationships every day for 8 years. And I say that because I think we sometimes forget that. When we see something like this, or we hear someone say, oh my gosh, I had a 6-figure launch, or I booked 6 clients off of one email, and that is usually true. I don't think people are lying, but we often miss the context and nuance of the customer journey, the relationship, or just the amount of time and effort someone has put into studying their audience and understanding their people and understanding their messaging and refining that so they can have one email create those results, right? There's a lot of factors that go into something, and if we don't understand that nuance, I think it can make you feel like, what am I doing wrong if I've sent 45 emails and I haven't gotten 5 clients, right? So I think just really understanding that I've been showing up to build relationships every day for 8 years. This doesn't mean it needs to take 8 years at all, right? We're saying it took 3 days here. But I think just understanding what that means is a couple different things. One, I've been studying my audience for 8 years, right? So I really know my people. And so that just helps when I'm looking at messaging, when I'm looking at my marketing, right? Like, it just helps me to know what to speak to. I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of coaching calls at this point, right? So all of this helps inform like quicker results just in terms of what I'm putting to my marketing, what I'm going to share even in a live stream here or in a masterclass. Again, doesn't mean you have to take 8 years, but just again, to give some context and nuance here. I've shared this so many times in this group. I've been very intentionally focused on my marketing and my content strategy, and then particularly recently my master classes, which I'm going to go into more detail with that strategy with you. That's one of the specific pieces, what we changed specifically with my masterclass strategy, because that's where a lot of this came from. I've been really intentionally focused on that for maybe since our last masterclass. So that was probably 3 months ago, for the last 3 months. So that's about 90 days, right? It says it takes 90 days for any strategy to play out, right? So I've been really focused intentionally on that. And what I also saw is not all of, but some of these people who hired me booked a free call with me a year ago, or signed up for my last free masterclass, or signed up for my free course, right? They've taken me up on other aspects of my free value and free work. And this was something I said in the email, but just for some nuance, part of the reason I could book 5 clients in 3 days is it didn't actually take 3 days, right? Like, they all came in at 3 days, but it's because I've been starting new relationships, building and nurturing those relationships, and giving free value that I honestly think is as valuable as much paid stuff for far longer. And so I have a pipeline. Right, this is what I work on with my clients so much, is how do they create a pipeline of potential clients that they know how to fill that pipeline and they know how to nurture that pipeline. This is what we do in the Path to Consistent 10K Months, the free masterclass I have, which someone remind me if I don't remember. Now we're on the replay, and I'll drop a link for that for you. It's completely free, right? This is the beauty of having a pipeline. I have a strategic pipeline that I know how to fill, I know how to nurture, and so then I've also then had some mindset shifts and some strategy shifts that we'll dive into, right? That allow then for 5 clients in 3 days, or 6 clients in 1 week, or an 88K sales month. But it's rarely, when you hear a result like that, it's rarely what happened in those 3 days. It's usually what happened in the 90 days before that, the 180 days before that, the year before that. I'm not saying this took 8 years of results, but I would say some of these were a year in the making, uh, one was a year in the making. One was definitely 3 months in the making because I can see, we track data, right? So I can see, oh, this person who bought directly through my email first signed up for my last masterclass or my last freebie 3 months ago, right? Like I can see that in motion. I can see that in our data. So I'm again reflecting this all here because I think this is just really important to hear. So no, I didn't have to have a big launch, and you don't either. And especially if you sell one-on-one, but this is the reality behind those results. The other context nuance here that feels important to speak to. That coffee's really good, y'all. I just bought. We're trying out a new coffee, and it's really really tasty. There's a coffee shop up the street from me called Devoción. I'm a coffee brat and stuff. I have one of those like nice Jura coffee machines that is one of our like bougie purchases. However, I will say we've had it for 10 years. I'm a big believer in buying quality things that last forever. So I actually think it's like the cheapest bougie thing ever because it's lasted forever. It's like a really good car. But so we always get really nice beans, and we get coffee from this coffee shop. This is like such a tangent. I'll come back to what we're talking about, I promise. But we get coffee, like I get my cortados that I like from there. But it's like, I've given these beans as gifts to people. So we just picked up some of their beans because I like to try beans from different places, and they're really tasty. Really, really good. Okay, I'm probably going to be over caffeinated by the end of our live stream as well because this is not my first cup of coffee today, y'all. Okay. So the other context or nuance here piece I wanted to share for those of you who do run more of a launch model in your business. This is something I was talking about with one of my clients with her launch model. We were taking a look at her results and just how to improve them. Something I've always seen this to be true, and I think this, I'm not the person who coined this. So many people say this. It's the whole idea that like, what is it? Summer abs are made in the winter, or whatever that saying is. Launch results are not created in your launch, right? It's what happens between launch and the off season. I think I've done a podcast on this, right? We were talking about football and that my stepson was playing football at the time. The Super Bowl descended, right? You don't win the Super Bowl based on what happens in the Super Bowl. You win the Super Bowl based on not just the whole season, but what you did in the off season for the training and the coaching. And so I think that is just what I'm trying to communicate here is whether you have a launch model or not. 5 clients in 3 days does not happen in those 3 days. It's what happened in the off season. So that's with one-on-one. But if you run a launch model, and I've just had a couple clients launching. We've had some really great launch results, and we've also I had a client who had great results, but she was frustrated. And one of the things I was talking with her about, and like with love, but I was like, hey, look, one of the things I'm noticing here, and one of the things I think we have to talk about is you didn't have a really strong pre-launch strategy, right? And it is just really tough and it's actually, in my opinion, impressive the results she got, because to come in, simply launch and then expect big results, like that is a lot of pressure on a launch. And the reason that's a lot of pressure on a launch, or the reason that can be tough, is we have to think about what I was just talking about, a customer journey, a client pipeline. For those of you who have a higher ticket offer that's not $37 or not $99, I would say anything that's $1,000 and over. Honestly, sometimes $500 and more, but I think $1,000 and under, you can get away with a much shorter. You just don't need as many touch points. But $1,000 and more, or something that's intimate, or that's going to be a big time commitment, or that's asking people to make really big decisions or changes in their lives, or to do things that are uncomfortable, right? We just usually have a longer customer journey. And so if you're expecting your launch, which is, let's say, even for those of you who have a long launch window, let's like say it's a total of a whole month, right? That's usually just not enough time, because usually that's 2 weeks of promo, 2 weeks for your actual launch and sales period. 2 weeks, if you have cold traffic coming through. And that's what I was telling my client. I was like, I think her results were actually phenomenal, but it's like the way you turn this into a really big launch the next time isn't your next launch as much as it's what you're doing from now until your next launch, right? It's that preseason, it's that in-between season, it's what you're doing there to fill your pipeline and to nurture that pipeline that creates those really big launch results as well. So same here. I'm hoping this is making sense, because I no one wants to hear this. Everyone like doesn't want to hear the truth about this, but this is how you get 5 clients in 3 days. This is how one of my clients had 27 people in a first time launch, right? It's like, oh, that's mind blowing, but these are the like not so secrets behind that. So a big part of this result is I've been showing up, building relationships, filling that pipeline, nurturing that pipeline. For me, that's looked like, being willing to get on the call and have free calls, but also obviously content every day in lives like this. But I have been doing, and we're going to pivot a little bit because I want to now talk about the mindset shifts and the masterclass shifts I made, because these results were truncated. And I do think there were some specific things I did that helped these results. And I want to share them with you so that you can get the same. So these results in particular, and one of the things I've been doing in particular is I've been offering free master classes. And you don't have to do a master class. This is not about doing master classes, but a master class is a conversion event. A master class is a higher, it's offering a free value upfront before asking for the sale. I guess some people would claim that that's a launch, but I think if I were launching, we would have a very different sales structure off the back end. What did I want to say with this? I just lost my train of thought. I'm going to take a sip of coffee while I just remember what I was going to say. So I've been giving free master classes monthly for years in my business. That's how we grew this Facebook group to 17,000 people. Actually, this Facebook group was over 20 or 21,000 people. I don't know if y'all know this. We deleted over 3,000 or 4,000 people in this group. Same on my Instagram. We deleted 3,000 or 4,000 people. And if it weren't kind of a waste of team time and energy, we would delete more, because we were just finding so many of the wrong people. When you join this group, we don't admit more than we admit. We get hundreds of requests per day, and we don't admit most of them. We're really trying to tighten that up because I want this community to stay serving for all of you. Anyway, but the master classes were conversion events, right? I used to do challenges. It could be a webinar. It could be a free opt-in, right? It doesn't have to, like PDF, it doesn't have to be a master class. That's how I grew this group. That's also how a couple years ago, right? Like I had an 88K sales month, right? This has been a part of my strategy from day one. And it's really been, how can I fill my pipeline? How can I nurture it? How can I give value upfront that is, and this is what I really think about. I really think about, how can I give value that I believe someone would pay for free, to help speed up, to close that gap, to speed up that know, like, and trust, and to shorten that customer journey. That has been a part of my strategy from day one. And I really want to put an emphasis on that. This last masterclass, my husband actually said to me the night before, he's like, "You're giving this away." No, he said, "Are you charging for this?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Wow." He's like, "Your people are so lucky you're giving this away for free." And I don't think he's wrong. I think we gave a ton of value in the 20K months multiplied masterclass. I think I always do. But what I was telling him is, I'm like, yeah, like that's true. Like I think people would pay for this, but also don't kid yourself. This is also it's win-win. Like, I think I owe this to people as a way to get to know, like, and trust me. Like, I think if I'm asking people for a high ticket investment, it is arrogant. I don't know what the right word is there, but it's irresponsible. Like, there's something there that, like, it just feels like, not who am I? Like, I think I'm excellent at what I do. But for me just to say, hey, I'm excellent at what I do, trust me, when the whole internet is telling you, hey, I'm excellent at what I do, trust me, and half of the internet is, I'm not calling anyone out, right? Like, they're maybe not giving the full truth. I think that is just, it's just not fair to you. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So I think I'm just not doing you a service or doing my job if I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is and to help show you that I'm excellent at what I do, and what like a sliver of what it might be like to work with me before asking you to think about investing a large sum of money. Because even my low ticket intensive, which I think is a steal, and people are making like massive ROIs from them, which I'm so happy about, right? But it's still $1,000 even with the incentive, or $1,250 if you don't get the incentive, right? Like, it's still, like, that's still a substantial amount of money. I just think it's, and this is like a whole nother conversation, maybe in rant, that I will save for another conversation. But that is just something I really think about. That's been a strategy from day one. The last year we actually started doing fewer master classes so that I could actually pour a little bit more into them, because I wanted them to be more valuable, and I'm quite full booked, so we have to be mindful of time. So that's something that has always supported my business. Now, I made a couple specific mindset shifts and a couple strategy shifts to this that turned what used to be from our customer journey. My customer journey for people booking one-on-one used to be a bit longer. I used to say it was probably between 6 months and a year. And I've seen with some of the changes we've made, it's getting truncated to, I mean, look, there are always the people who like find my stuff and they just buy right away. I just had someone, the 10K masterclass, like someone literally signed up the day or hired me the day after watching it. So I'm seeing more and more of that happening. And there are plenty of people who also have a longer customer journey. We're really seeing that. Again, we track this with data. I'm really seeing this get shortened to 6 months to 3 months to even a month long, outside of those people who are like 1 week in, like 1 day in. And I think that's because of some of these changes. Okay, let me pull up, because there were a couple of notes. I wanted to make sure I hit on the specifics, and I'm noticing the time. Let me know if this is valuable for y'all. I hope this is, I'm like trying to give you like as real, like this is literally the shit I've been focused on and doing, and hope that that is helpful for you to hear. So I do think it's helpful to hear my mindset shifts. So there were a couple mindset shifts I made. And I say this also because I think sometimes we think mindset shifts are like, I'm just like chanting I'm going to be a millionaire all day long. And not that I like don't say that, but these are actually quite more specific mindset shifts that I think made a big difference. And I'm a booked out multi-six-figure business owner. So I think maybe it's just helpful to even hear how someone who is like, I really do think I show up like a CEO of my business and think like a CEO of my business. So one of the mindset shifts I made is that, and again, I want you to hear how like specific this is, and this isn't just like I believe in my business or I believe in myself or like I love money and money loves me. I love those affirmations too. But this is an actual mindset shift, and the mindset shift was I made a decision to focus, and my decision was I want to intentionally focus on my marketing and then my masterclass strategy to refine it. Right. And that's a mindset shift, right? Before, to be really honest, I didn't have like 2020, 2021, we didn't have to, right? Like let's just call it how it is. This is the case for everyone. I was talking about this with another client. I was coaching her around some shifts she needs to make. And she's like, well, I never had to do that before. I'm like, you're right. You never did have to do that before. Our space was different. And now you do, right? Like, welcome to 2024, right? Like, they're just different shifts. And also, for me, I never had to before because it just was a lot less crowded, right? We had more trust in our space. The economy was different. I could honestly put out masterclasses that I think were valuable, but I don't think they were as strategically and intentional. I don't think they've always been valuable, but I don't think they were maybe as high value outside of the sales course we gave away as some of the ones we've done recently. And they still converted really well. And I had such a full pipeline, and I was honestly overbooked that it just didn't, there just wasn't a need to really focus in and drill in there because I had a surplus, and I didn't have the time and hours where it even would make sense to focus on those things. Now, we were overbooked, we're not overbooked, and I did not book these 5 clients for 1 month, just to be very clear there. We are not about overbooking. I have promised I will never do that again. Fine that it happened in the past for my business, but I'm really intentional about that because I want to make sure I can give my clients my full attention and that I don't burn out. So if you're a client of mine, I did not book 5 clients and fill a full month up with 5 more. We spread them out. Detail there. But I did decide last year when I've shared this before in so many different ways, I saw content reach going down online. I saw marketing shifts changing. I saw how social media was going, and just like what was working before wasn't working the same way. I just saw these shifts, and I made a very intentional decision a year ago to focus in on marketing and to pivot where I needed to. And then master classes, the same thing. I just saw, I was like, oh, like I also am more full and busy, and we don't have as many hours to just crank one of these out per month. I really made an intentional decision to do less better and to do 1 a quarter. But then I wanted to really drill in and refine the strategy. And with that, one of the intentional decisions, this is one of the mindset shifts I made, is really thinking about if I'm selling into a coaching intensive, and this might not be relevant for all of you, but just so you can hear my mindset shift, I've always booked from free calls and consultations, but I am quite full, and I shared some content around this that I think was confusing for some people to hear. So little bit of a side tangent, but let me clarify this. As long as I have availability on my calendar, right? I run a fully booked practice, so we don't have tons of extra availability. And my paying clients are my priority, obviously. But as long as I have availability, I will always be available to have a consultation. And I made a rule with my my coach that I'm never going to allow myself to be so overbooked that I don't have room for at least limited free coaching sessions, because I think they're so valuable for me in terms of what we were talking about, filling my pipeline, right? Having clients come through the door, because it's not just about being fully booked now, right? It's about what happens 6 months from now, what happens a year from now, what happens 3 years from now, right? I'm in business for the long term, but I also think it's really valuable for you to build that trust and to see if we are a fit to work together. And so as long as I have capacity, I'm always available to schedule that with someone. And as I'm full, and as we get full booked out in the future, right, there's less and less capacity for that. And that means people have to wait for a consultation or wait for a free call, or we have fewer ones of those available. Or in the future, who knows, maybe that will change, and maybe we won't do consultations. Right now, I'm very much still available for them. However, one of the things I was thinking about is, my coaching intensive is something really solid, and it's something that I'm very confident that I can get someone results in that. Like, we can cover the messaging and the marketing in that week. And I really believe if people read through, we have a lot of information there that they're the right fit for that I can support pretty much any business owner through that, right? So one of the things this was a mindset shift, and this was a mindset shift I had to make because I've just been it's like you get so used to doing the things the way you do them in your business, is that I wanted to be available for booking intensives directly without a free call or without a consultation. And again, I'm going to want to be so clear here. This does not mean if you need a consultation or you need a free mini session to see if we're a fit that I'm not available for that. I'm going to drop a link for that. It will always, as long as I have capacity in my calendar, right? Who knows, in 5 years we might go to application only or something. But for right now, as long as I have capacity, the rule I've made is I will still leave room for that on my calendar. And I know there are people who have had a call with me, or they've been following me for a while. They already know they want to book this. They don't need to get on the phone with me to book a week-long intensive. But I do want something before working with someone 6 months, right, to know that we're a fit, because 6 months, that to me feels very out of integrity. Again, at this stage, who knows? Maybe in the future we'll do an application process, but I give myself permission to change my mind. But at this stage of my business, it feels really important to have to make sure that we're a fit for the work we're going to do in a 6-month container, especially since most of my clients work with me for more than 6 months and work with me long term. And so this is a long-winded way to say one of the mindset shifts I had to make was really getting out of, this is the way I've always done it. What's the way I could do it now to create for some more spaciousness given what my roster looks like? One of those might be to be available for people to book directly into an intensive. And an intensive is a really great offer that can stand on its own, right? But it's also a really great offer for us to be in place of a consultation, because you're diving in, you're getting results, right? It's a great way to get to know me and my work. It's a great way to see if we're a fit. Like, no matter what, you're going to get excellent results. But it acts as a really great precursor for the 6 months. And so this was a big mindset shift I had to make. And again, I'm saying this because I think it's just, Laura says, hi, late to the party, but here and so happy to be with you. So happy to have you here. And I say this because I think we just hear mindset shifts and we think mindset is only like, I have to believe I'm a millionaire. And I'm here for that mindset too. But this was actually some mindset work I had to do to go from, this is what's always worked in my business. This is what's always gotten me results. Can I be available for shifting things up, being available for something different? And this was being available for something different. This also then I had to decide and make a focus, right, with that. So I was deciding I wanted to be available to book intensives directly from the masterclass, and that also meant that I had to make the decision, and I made the mindset shift to intentionally be focused on tightening up our masterclass and our strategy around that. And so I'm reflecting this here because those are mindset shifts, and those were mindset shifts that really preceded, right? Had I not made that mindset shift, I don't think we've booked 6 clients in a week before. It's not like I wouldn't get these results, but these specific results I'm sharing with you, those were the mindset shifts that then allowed me to show up really intentionally and strategically in a different way with the same strategy I've been doing for years. I'm really hoping that this makes sense for y'all. The other mindset that I've always had, but I really took in particular with this last masterclass, so where the 5 clients in 3 days came from, right? The mindset I took, and I remember having a conversation with my coach where I was like, I don't know if it was a new masterclass. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be something my audience is into. Like, this is a little bit different than what I usually teach. I feel really, like feel really good about it. There's a lot of value here, but I just don't know how this is going to land with my people. And I just made it. I was like, but you know what? I'm just gonna have the mindset of I just don't know until I test it, and I need to test this to know, because we had another masterclass that did really well, and I just need to see how this type of masterclass lands with my audience, or I'm not going to know. And I say that because I think the willingness to not know and the willingness to test and find out is part of why these results happen. Because I also then, with that mindset, I didn't say, well, like, I don't know, so like I'm gonna wait to find out, or I'm gonna wait to survey a bunch of people, or I'm gonna wait to have the answers in advance, or like what's the point of bothering, or like maybe I'll just half-ass this because I don't know if it'll work. I had to have the mindset of I really believe this hypothesis, I'm going all in, I have made the decision, this is my focus, and I want to be available for booking clients in this way, and I want to tighten up my messaging, my marketing strategy here, and I have to just be available to see what shows up for me. And I got some of the best feedback on this last masterclass. I had one person who hired me, and she said, I feel like you made this class for me. She's like, I actually watched it 5 times, took pages of notes, and cried, and not like sad tears, but just because she's like, it was like just what I needed so much, and she was just thanking me for it. And gosh, I mean, that makes me like, nothing, like whether you hire me or not, like nothing makes me happier. Like I put a lot of intentionality into what I share with you all because I want everyone to succeed. I want you all to make money, like whether you hire me or not. But I think if I hadn't had those mindset shifts, right, that I'm going to really be focused in on refining the strategy, that I'm available for booking clients in this new way that's different than how I have in the past. And again, that does not mean I'm not available for consults or free calls, y'all. Still am very available for that. And if I hadn't really had that testing mindset, I don't know that I would have even been in the mindset to create the class the way I did, or to make some of the strategic shifts that I'm going to share with you in a moment. So those were the mindset shifts, and that again feels important to share because I want you to hear what a mindset shift can look like when you're in your CEO role, when you're thinking about your business, treating your business like a business. Not to say I don't also have mindset trash come up around, fear responses and trauma responses and just like stories that are trash that we all have as humans. But I've also done a lot of work around those. Sometimes when I'm doing mindset work, sometimes the shifts are mindset shifts like this. And I think it's just important to name that. Okay, now let's talk about the specific strategy shift. So I'm going to actually zoom out a little bit instead of saying like, here are all the things Kim did strategically, because my business is different than your business. You might not even want to run master classes. You might do something very, like you might do a challenge, right? Like that's not the point of this conversation. But I thought I would just share a couple of things that I was thinking about, that if you were my client, this is how I would coach you through a conversion event and thinking about it, because I do see both some things that I've done differently, and when I'm coaching clients right now, that I'm really coaching them around and having them think about, because I think this has always been important, but I do think things have just shifted so much in our online space. And I think what I was saying at the beginning of our conversation here, in terms of not to put pressure on you where it's like you now need to like create the most incredible thing ever for free. I don't hear this that way, but I do think that in the past we could just get away with fluffier conversion events, fluffier freebies, and they would work for you. And I just don't see that in our climate working the same way, unless you're in such a specific niche where there's like no one else doing what you're doing. But otherwise, I mean, most people don't want to give their email address and their time away to fluff, and most people are, if anything, are wary because they've gotten so much fluff. And for most of you, the thing I would tell my clients often, and I don't mean this to be a Debbie Downer, I mean this just so that you can really think about how to show up intentionally and strategically in your business and with your marketing in specific, is that you're not most people's only option, right? The idea with messaging and marketing, what we're doing in Your Marketing Multiplied in that intensive, what I'm doing with my clients is how can we have your messaging and your marketing be so specific, be so intentional that you become the only choice for your people, right? That people look at you and like, there's 10 people they've been looking at, they're like, no, this is the person I want to work with. This is the person I want to hire. Right, that's the goal of really great marketing, of really great messaging, of really great brand identity. And we have to remember in order to be able to create that intentionally and strategically, we have to think that for most people, and again, I'm not saying this in a bad mean way. It's just, I'll use myself as an example, right? I am not the only business coach in the internet. I'm not the only multi-six-figure booked out business coach, right? I think like, in some ways I'm lucky, or I have an easy business model, and that there aren't a ton of business coaches at my level with my results and my client results who still want to do one-on-one, that aren't charging 50K or 100K for one-on-one coaching, right? Like in that way, like I do start to become one of the few options, but even that, I'm still not the only option, right? Like there's still other people. And so we have to remember that. And so if we're just creating something for people that isn't going to help turn you into the only option for them, you're sort of doing a disservice, which is why I've myself and my coaching clients I'd rather you do less than more frequent, if that means you can be more intentional and essentially make it better. I don't know, like that sounds perfectionistic, but it's not perfectionistic. It's just being more strategic. And that is definitely something I was thinking about. I was like, how can I step this up to the next level for y'all? So, okay, a couple of specifics here, because I want to make sure I give you some of the specifics. So one of the things, I'm thinking about one of my clients, we just had this conversation. We were looking at her conversion events. And one of the things I was talking to her about is, and this sounds so obvious, but I think it's just fascinating how easy it is for us to forget this. What I really want to invite you to do, if you're having a conversion event, whether it's a masterclass or a challenge or a free call, right? A free call is essentially a conversion event, a free coaching session. I really want you to think about what is your offer, and to first take a look at your offer, right? We forget sometimes about why are we doing this? And is your offer clear and specific? And then what is the clear and specific step beforehand that makes sense, that pitching that offer makes sense, or do you need to change your offer up? I'm going to explain what I mean here, but so usually this means reverse engineering from your offer, and that can either look like, is there a first step people need to know? Is there a problem or a fire you can put out that once someone has solved that problem or fire, or has that tool or has that insight, your offer is the obvious next step? Or can you create problem awareness for someone, right? I think my last masterclass was a little bit more problem awareness. I definitely gave tips and tools, but I think it was a little bit more problem awareness. Can you create problem awareness where your offer is then the obvious next step for them? So again, this is not like no one has never not heard this before. This is not brand new information. But I think when you're busy and you're like running at like all the things in your business and you're like just wanting to crank things out, I think sometimes we forget to take the moment to pause and to be very intentional with this piece. And the more intentional you can be with this piece, the more intentional you can be with the rest of your strategy, the more that's going to convert for you. The more it's going to not only fill your pipeline, but it's going to cut down that customer journey, right? Because when I look at my own journey with these, my masterclasses have always been performed well. They've always filled our pipeline. They've always converted, but I'm just seeing them the customer journey get shorter and shorter, and this is part of the reason for it. Aside from we were talking about earlier with the other nuance here. Or like in my case here, if you're creating a masterclass and your next step offer isn't the obvious next step, an invitation, like, do you need to modify it, right? I do a coaching intensive. My coaching intensive is personalized to each person. If you were to book a consultation with me, right, I have focuses, but usually I personalize them to each person. So for this, I created a new intensive for y'all. Like, yes, that took some more time and effort and thought and work. Absolutely. And that is why I think this worked better as opposed to just something more general or just pitching to my regular intensive that I have. So I think those specifics, being intentional with those specifics, go such a long way. And I think this is where a lot of people get like 3/4 of the way, and it's not that it's not serving, but I think this is where you're missing some of what you're hoping your conversion event will do when you're not focused on this. Let me know if that makes sense for you. Some of the other pieces here. This is actually something I put a note here. So I was like, do I want to share this? But I think this is just helpful to hear. I'm a really big believer in only sharing classes and master classes that you're excited about teaching about. However, this is the nuance that I put here. I think there's something to being really mindful of teaching the stuff only you are excited about, or that is just like the juicy fun thing you're excited about, as opposed to what does your audience need? What do they most need? What is most exciting for them? What is their big fucking fire that you can put out for them, or problem that you can speak to, that you can address, that you can give them a quick win, that you're also excited about? Like I think knowing who you're serving, who your ideal client is such an important part of your business. And I support clients with this all the time because it so informs your messaging, which, like, I hate to say this, your messaging and your marketing, if you don't have that in place, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. It's just really, really tough if you're using the online space to bring in clients and results at a high level, because that is the part that lets someone see you're good at what you do. And so knowing who you serve, right, is such a crucial part of that. And doing a masterclass on ideal clients, for me personally, even though I know it's so important, it puts out a fire, it's probably not going to get me super excited. So I wouldn't pick that as a topic. However, if I just picked what Kim was excited about all of the time, right, I would probably just be talking about like more big scope ideas about like making your own rules and doing things your way. And I don't know, what are just some other things that I get excited about, like leveraging your money, things that are, I think, still valuable, but and people would still sign up for it, but they won't convert at the same level because it's more what I'm excited about and maybe what you're interested in, but not something that's putting out a fire for you, not something that you need right now, not something that it becomes more. I was talking about this with one of my intensive clients, actually. There's a big difference between need to have and nice to have. And those things that kind of I'm really excited about that you're interested in, those are nice to haves. We don't buy nice to haves right away. We buy nice to haves down the road, right? When you position your conversion event around a need to have, right, and then your next step offer is a need to have, that is when you're getting those quicker conversions. And so that's just something I would be thinking about if that's one of your goals for your conversion events, is really looking at, am I speaking to a nice to have or a need to have? Not that you can't speak to nice to haves, but then setting up the expectations for yourself in terms of the results on the back end. Because if it's a nice to have, people are going to wait until they're ready for that nice to have. If it's a need to have, right, that is when people are like, take my money. Claire says, hey Kim, so please be able to catch you live. So glad to have you here. Like, I love when people get to be live here. So I would really think about that with those conversion events, especially, launching or not launching. And I think this is just a place where all of us, I have plenty of master classes that have performed just fine. But when I look at them, I'm like, oh, well, that was fun to do. And I was definitely speaking to nice to haves or things I was super excited about, not need to have. Okay. My timer's going to go off in a moment. I set a timer for myself because I have a client call after this. I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple of the other strategy pieces because I do want you to hear them. These are things I've just really been focusing on myself and with clients that I think for conversion events are quite helpful. So, a couple things here. Two, in terms of the marketing, what we looked at is, I feel like I'm a broken record with this, y'all. This is not just because I have a coaching intensive called Your Marketing Multiplied. It is because this is what I'm seeing change the game for myself and for clients across the board when I've seen the industry change so much and I've seen so many businesses go out of business. And I'm like, oh, well, but we're crushing it over here. Like, what's the difference there? What I really focus on and what I'm focused on with clients is being very clear on specific messaging and positioning for the conversion event, right? Sometimes we just do this for the business overall. It makes such a difference when you look at that for your conversion event, creating much more intentional promos that are platform specific. Same with the landing page. This is without going into all the nitty gritty, but I played with testing the copy and landing page format on some other conversion events, and we've just started to see what performs better. And again, when I say specific messaging, we did a whole live stream on this, but I really have paid attention to how, and I teach this, and look, y'all, I'm busy. I write my own copy. Like, sometimes I just phone it in. I am a lazy writer and it still works fine. But I see when I just take the effort to be a little bit more intentional and specific in my copy, it's not like the other copy is bad or wrong, but what a difference it makes. And when I say specific, I mean the difference between general language to really speaking to specific ways people are experiencing problems and results, and what a difference that is making in conversion rates for sign up, I coach all my clients around this. This is not rocket science, but we really look at how can you incentivize people to sign up? How can you bribe people to sign up? Yes, for a free event. We've got to be intentional with the messaging, the positioning, the marketing, the selling of a free event, but also people got a lot of places they can give their email address. How can you bribe them? We did far more promos, I think, than ever to sign up. And then the place I really saw, so the delivery, I think, being, again, giving content that's a need to have, that's as valuable, if not more valuable, like that's something that people would pay for, right? Because that, if someone told me they watched my masterclass 5 times, right, that tells you something there, right? Like that's what we're going for, right? Then you just create that once. You're not having to create something new every month. And this isn't to put pressure on y'all, but I think that's the way I'd be thinking about it. I think what's actually quite interesting there is the general school of thought I have heard with webinars and masterclasses, right? It's like, don't give people too much, don't give them too much information, don't give it all away, because then they have no reason to buy. And I think there is nuance to that, because I do think that's true. I think if you go too long, I honestly probably went too long my last masterclass. It just still performed well, but I think we could have been closer to 90 minutes. We were closer to 2 hours. I do think 90 minutes and under for something like a webinar or masterclass performs better, because you're just going to lose people who don't stay on until the end. I think with one-on-one it's a little different, because I'm not looking for everyone to buy a program to stay on to the end. I'm just looking for the people who actually want the deep work. So I think that's why it's a little bit different with a one-on-one offer than if you're doing a traditional launch and selling a group program or a course. So if you're selling one-on-one, less to worry about there. If you're selling like a course or group program, I would really look at trying to keep it to the 90 minutes or under. What I would say is just be mindful of not overwhelming people and giving them so much they have to go off and work something where it's like they've got everything they need right now. It's not that they don't want to buy your offer then, it's just that they've got everything they need to digest and to work on, and now they feel like they need to do that before they can go on to the next step. And I think sometimes our need to want to prove we're great at what we do can be overwhelming to someone on the other side and be a little bit of a disservice. The last thing, and then I just do want to see if we have any questions. The other thing is we really focused on revamping the sales emails, the replays on the other side. And again, really drilling into specifics in those emails. And I just put more intentionality into them. We've been using the same copy and paste emails for like 5 years, y'all. I always tell my clients, I'm like, do not go through my funnel and borrow my funnel as inspiration for your funnel, because we haven't touched that shit in 5 years because we haven't needed to. And this was something I intentionally focused on in my business. Right now, I might say, take a look and you can reverse engineer our strategy a little bit, but I think this is why you always want to be so mindful of reverse engineering people's strategy without knowing the difference. Like, I have plenty of funnels out there. I would say, like, do not go and copy and paste those. But that was just something we really made. We were really intentional with, and then I'm still testing like email subject lines and email formats. And then the other thing, and this is something I think is, again, y'all know this, we've talked about this in different ways, but I think it's just helpful to think about with conversion events, and whether you're launching or not. Oops, and that's my timer. So I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. But that is to really think about, again, that intentional specific offer as the next step, and really helping people, really selling that offer and helping people understand how what you did, like, this is the next step they need to get what they want. This is one of the biggest notes I give my clients when I'm reviewing, when I'm editing their emails in a sale funnel. So often, like, I love you. This is a great written, like, this is a great email, but you're not selling me, right? You're just telling me this offer, you're just telling me this thing, or it's just been like plunked down here. You're not selling me on why I need this offer, on why this is the next step, on why this offer gets me what I want. And so I'd really be thinking about that. I think we just sometimes think we're selling when we're, and again, I've like totally, I can be quite lazy with my emails sometimes. So, and right, when I'm intentional and focused on specific, right, they perform better. And this is just one of those things where it's like, I would really look at, are you selling your offer? Or are you just mentioning it, plopping it in there? There's a really big difference with that. Again, I was selling one-on-one, so it's quite different. If you were launching, I would honestly suggest you're going to want, then we're creating a launch strategy with more emails. And then I think just looking at general sales things, like, do we have a deadline? Do we have an incentive? Do we have urgency? Do we have scarcity? And things that are authentic, not making shit up that is fake or real. I think, that is some loud New York City noise. They're doing the construction here. But I do think that is something, I haven't offered incentives in forever. And honestly, like in many ways it doesn't serve me to, because we are full. I'm not mad too, but I also really wanted, my intentional goal with this past masterclass was to see, what does it look like to book people directly from emails without a consultation or a free call first. Again, I am so available for consultations. I'm so available for free calls. I'm not saying I'm taking those away, but we do have less, we have less availability on the roster. And so I did want to see, for me in that way, offering an incentive made sense, because that is also, time. My time is worth money, and all of that. I'm not mad. I'm so available for those calls, but for any of you who need one, but that was a reason for me to put incentive in, even though maybe someone else might say, like, why would you like offer that, Kim, in your business at this time? Just so you can understand my thought process there. To me, that really made sense. But I did see how, like, honestly, having a deadline, having an incentive, like these, having some urgency markers, these things you all know, but how simply applying those, like it really does make a difference. And I see this not just in my own business, right? This is one-on-one. So again, it's a little different than if you are launching, but I see this with clients who are launching when I'm supporting them. Like, I think we just sometimes almost think like those are gimmicky things. They're gimmicky if they're fake. They're gimmicky if they're not authentic and if they're not real. But if you can find an authentic, real way to use these, they work, because humans suck at making decisions. Like we just really do. We need these things to help us make a decision. It's the last thing I'll leave you with, but I think it's just helpful as like a reminder, or like as a way to think about this. Y'all know I'm obsessed with my gym across the street. I feel like I talk about it all the time in my spin class. I'm like in love with it. And I would not be telling you about that gym I love so much if before they opened, they didn't have a pre-sale with a deadline where a special is going away for a founders members rate, right? If they hadn't given me that deadline, it's an expensive gym membership, and I'm just one of those people who is a good steward to my money. And I was like, I don't know that I need to spend that much money on a gym membership. And if they hadn't had a deadline that they weren't going to take that incentive away from me, I don't know, maybe I'd go wander over there 6 months later and think about joining. But like, I just didn't have enough understanding of how much I was going to love it, because I hadn't experienced it yet, right? So I had no reason to make that decision. I probably would not have joined, to be quite honest. And I actually look back and I'm like, thank you so much for being good salespeople and doing that, because I'm so grateful for that gym and everything I get from that, right? But if they hadn't given me that, and I'm great at making decisions overall. Like, I'm a pretty quick decision maker. I do it in my business. I do it in the investments. But that was one of those things. I have a gym in my building, right? Like, I just was like, I don't know that I really need, there just wasn't, it was like a nice to have, not to need to have, is maybe the way to say that there. But that incentive and that deadline helped me to make that decision, because I'm still a human with a human brain, and I'm not mad at it. I'm so grateful for it. So I think just remembering those things can go a really long way for conversions as well. Claire says, I thought the truck was the alarm. I was thinking, wow, that's loud. Well, I did have an alarm go off, but no, this is the beauty of New York City. Hopefully it stopped, but I do not know what the F is wrong my street. They have been digging up the pipes, the water pipes, I swear, for 3 years, and we think they're done, and then they start all over again. And they always do it either like when I'm live or when I'm recording a podcast. I'm like, okay, here we go. Anyway, so those are the fun noises. All right, y'all, I am going to hop off because I do have a client call and I want to make sure I can read their notes and be really present for them. Thank you for hanging. I hope this was valuable. If you hopped on live, catch the beginnings, that gave some nuance around these results and spoke to some of the mindset pieces as well. I hope those strategy specifics are useful for you. If you're listening to this, I quite unapologetically dropped my new intensive quite a few times, because I'm honestly loving it, and I'm just blown away by the results I'm seeing people get in 1 week. Again, I just had we created a brand new 10K VIP day. She's already got 2 people interested in it, and part of that is the offer we created is kick-ass, and she's kick-ass, but also the messaging and marketing strategy around that. So I will drop a link for that if you want to find out more, and you can book directly, as you now know why, right? That's a great way to jump in with me. It's quite accessible, but it will also drop a consultation or a free mini session link if that feels like an easier entry point to me. And we could talk about it and then talk about upcoming availability for the next couple of months. Laura says, this was great. Thanks, Kim. Laura says, I live on a remote island and we still have tons of construction noise. Oh, that makes me feel happy to know. I always feel like, oh, this is like the New York City thing. So Laura, thank you for saying that. That makes me feel less like I'm just torturing you all with the New York City noise. Though I love my New York the way you love your island. Okay, y'all, I love you. I will see you next week. Bye.